Okay. All right. Back of my neck.
So they have officially given us more details on Premium Weekend. So they've happy to announce Premium Weekend, a brand new way for you to enjoy the premium format. The circuit runs from August 2026 to March 2027, and winners of each event will receive an invite for the next World Finals in the standard format. Day 1, main event. Day 2, community events. Participants can also look forward to receiving promo cards and supplies with exclusive art created for this event. Before we even talk about it, I want to double check the website just to make sure if there's any details that have been added, whatnot. I should have done this before, but you know what? I'm okay with not actually doing it because I'm just delaying it because, all right, ever really kind of do that there. So, any details? Nope. Okay.
I feel like we got a template, like a ZetaZephyr apology form.
For what?
Like people up to apologize to him for doubting him.
For what? Why would they need to apologize to him for?
Just toss it into the pits of Vanguardians like a pipe bomb.
Mm-hmm. You know who they should also be apologizing to?
Huh.
Me! I warned you for years! Ever since they said they were basically closing out V support, I said it. They were going to do the same to Premium, and everyone told me to shut the fuck up. I've waited years for this. You're going to listen to what I say, and y'all gonna actually understand now that I have finally taken time to really think of an eloquent response to all of this. You're going to sit back, and now I've calmed down from that moment. You're going to sit back, relax, and listen as I carefully explain how we got to this point. But first, what do you think, Z? What do you think? You go first.
I mean, like, on the announcement itself, or how we got to this point?
The announcement itself. Let's start with that.
I mean, there are fewer instances in which I have experienced the purest form of secondhand embarrassment, but like, again, like the Knack quote, how the fuck, what went through their heads when they had to announce this live with a straight face? Well, I guess in their case it was a pre-recording, but like, you read Premium Weekend and you read what the pricing is, and like, I feel like I stared at it for a moment after after I broke down, and like, it's like putting the cube in the round hole. Like, something isn't clicking here. How did we... I know why it is the way it is. It doesn't make it any less depressing. It doesn't make it any less exhausting. And like, I can't help but look at this announcement and just be like, look, as evidenced by a blog post that I think might still exist. I genuinely do not remember. I have in the past been someone that's like, okay, if we assume Bushiroad is stuck in their ways and that this is the only path forward, V Premium was inevitably going to go and lead into other shit. The dominoes falling. But, like, if there's anywhere to pin blame at on a primal level, it is higher up Bushiroad. Right? Like, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that, like, at the crux of the issue, Bushiroad is has been the primary instigator in this issue.
They are one of the primary reasons. Yeah, I'll say that. Yes.
Right. Like, the amount of vitriol or otherwise indifference towards the pillar that kept other shit up is a byproduct of that.
And what was that pillar?
It starts with a V.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only format I can reasonably play Malkuth in.
Mm-hmm. Continue.
No, it's V, V Premium died, and the rest of the fucking house came down with it. I'm like, I am trying to tackle this in a way that does not subsequently steal your thunder, because if there was ever a moment that belonged to you, it is this. But I do stand by the idea that, like, the crux of the problem was Bushiroad being stuck enough in their ways to not be willing to implement more V Premium and Premium product. Like, their insistence on like slowly phasing out the non-standard stuff and not really giving most people a reason to believe otherwise, I think is kind of my main issue with all of this. And I will cut myself off there for fear of rambling on as the undiagnosed neurodivergence tends to enable.
Okay. Thank you for your section of that. Yes. It is just like it is ironically see how I put you remember when the Guilty Gear Strive files got leaked. And people found that there's a Goku in the files of Strive. That was the load bearing part of that game.
Yeah.
Where if you remove Goku from Guilty Gear, which makes no damn sense in the first place. Like, why is it? The entire game crumbles down. Goku was the load-bearing weight for the entire game. And guess who actually ended up being Goku for Cardfight Vanguard? Oh my goodness. This feels like years of validation piling up, and I get to say it. I get to truly say it. And this time, and while there are very much a bunch of other things we can add, and obviously, I'll admit how I got to actual end goal was purely mostly on emotion. But I was right. If you let V Premium die, which gave support to 2 formats, you would not get anything. And it would eventually cause the end of Premium, because if they just let V go, they do it once, they can do it again. They will do it again. They just did. You see this on your screen? They just did it. I told you that 3 years ago. And by you, I kind of mean you, but also like the audience as well. Not 3 years ago, but like at least like a year ago or 2 years ago, I've said that. Look, you know, when we originally had that conversation, I got sent to the ether because I completely forgot to check the the audio files. When I said that, I was like, that's not a good thing. That wasn't a good thing because, well, it was showing like, yeah, standard was not really giving a sizable enough like support wave to change decks. And so it was pretty much only V that was giving support to these old archetypes and then allowing these decks to really get new waves of support. It was the only part that was genuinely changing the game. Both games, both formats.
And I think that idea too, the idea that like the idea you said both games, that really nails down like the state of Vanguard after a certain point. Like standard and whatever else orbited standard were functionally separate games down to like core mechanics, it felt like.
Yeah,
And that was
like,
part of the reason why standard was so little support for premium.
it is standard was its own game, but it was also very young. So it's like, yeah, it's not going to immediately impact everything. There were a few cards that people did look at. There are a few cards that obviously did come in and make a thing, right? Obviously, like there's like when we got to Premium 4, there's obviously like the Mythiarchs that became like a new engine for Mega Colony that allowed them to kind of survive the Ghidorah hit and like allow them to actually still be a top tier deck. You know, eventually that just kind of just happened because yeah, those cards actually are crazy in an area where like they have enough like control pieces to or like advantage to compensate for their weaknesses in standard. Right? That was a good thing because it's like, hey, a standard deck finally had a nice niche to kind of put in here, right?
It felt like the modern day equivalent of like, oh fuck, there was a DI example. Or like, I guess NLK felt like one of the first initial like V bosses that truly felt like it slotted in and enabled like new shit. Now, granted, that resulted in some
A lot of
fuck ass
toxicity and
degenerate
things,
loot,
yes.
but yeah, but like, it's the same like general idea. I
Yeah.
feel like,
But I mean specifically standard decks like
yeah,
Mythiarchs specifically came in, started in stairs. Like, yeah, that's pretty great. There are probably going to be other decks in the future that would or probably do that too. But for archetypes like, say, Blade Wings in V that only really got that one wave and nothing else, there were still a bunch of incomplete archetypes that could have been updated, like, you know, given more support, given actual like fleshing out of their archetype, but never are going to now.
genuinely. Does anyone remember Blue Wings?
I remember them. I have like a deck kind of. I have like a budget deck kind of sleeved down and like the like the middle of my coffee table.
Yeah, I was like, I remember that. Like, I thought that deck was an interesting concept, but it was never able to be like,
It never got support ever again
right.
because
It
there's
had like exactly one wave and nothing beyond that. Like, that would have been prime clan collection material.
yeah, easy. It's like you have. It's not even like you didn't run out of ideas, right? Like you still had a whole bunch of other like boss units or you gray ones, gray twos. You can easily like take from and kind of adapt them from there. Like you could have done like a blue wings grade 3 boss, which is like, oh, this counts as a heal trigger for the effect of a blue wing card, or this counts, or like you can like look at the top summon cards of your deck. You can probably grab like a heal and like put in your hand, or then like you put a card from your hand on the top of your deck or something, and it's like it activates the blue ring thing or whatever.
Hmm.
Right? You could have found a way to kind of combo that to have a real thing, right? Just for blue rings, blade wings. Maybe like you have a mechanic that like helps, kind of fix Reiji's problems or accelerates Reiji, but in a healthy way, right?
Right.
Like there's so many archetypes you can just do. Like say like give Fang more support, give uh what you call like a bunch of other archetypes and decks of these nations. You had so much time. If the point of V is to have like a reboot of those classic cards in a new light or make new archetypes, you have the road runs free. Like it was never like you didn't have any cards to pull from. There's still some Legion cards you could have brought from. There's still some Limit Break cards you could have brought from. Heck, you could have even gone into more G archetypes and kind of like taken some of those like famous cards and kind of updated them. You did it for Udo. Like she was literally just a starter deck boss. Then she became the boss of an archetype, became tier 1. Like the having the actual cards in development wasn't the issue with that. So it's not because they ran out of ideas. There's so many ideas you can put there. But it's like, so it's like, okay, so then why did they stop V? Well, the answer is one of two reasons. One, people weren't showing up to tournaments because they obviously, probably didn't like the format, which I would probably say would be somewhat fair. Like it's been, we just have a new format, give it some time to kind of grow and everything. And then you also have premium, which is a bunch of cards from your legacy and whatnot, put that in there. B was just kind of in this awkward space. But that awkward space had a purpose, it turns out, and that it was holding up 2 formats at one time. And if that went, well, guess what? Now it's like the question is, okay, so how do we support premium? Do we just print new strides? Do we print new G guards? Do we print new individual units? And I think the answer is they weren't going to print anything. Here's the joke: they weren't going to print anything because if they did a V collection, guess what? That supports the main decks of cards. If we had gotten we got V collections every year from when we last stopped, there's probably a brand new meta of decks that exists right now. There are probably like archetypes in G or V that probably got support and they're probably like in the running for thing right now. As a hypothetical, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, it frees up having to create main deck cards specifically for premium that probably are just going to suck and never see the light of day again. You just wasted all that time. Because at least there's a place to play them. If they didn't work in V, then at least they probably worked in premium. If they didn't work in premium, they probably at least worked in V. And then that leads you to then be like, okay, we can do, a team that can do premium related strides in G guards, maybe some cranial that aren't uh utterly busted, maybe some orders for the format. Since you brought in orders in late V, you could have done that. And it's like, I feel like if we hadn't stopped there, we could have a whole new era. Like, you could allow these games to keep saying games, but these formats to still live and keep going. And I think we're not in this position where we're at the point where Solemn literally just said, "I'm out. I've been out. I'm gone. Bye." Like, that was a person who was like, you saw him and you saw his love for the game and how much he loved it. Going from that to literally just writing on Twitter, "Yeah, I've been out. Peace. I realized I didn't need this game no more. Bye." Like, obviously, I'm not saying the whole of his words or how he really feels completely,
Right,
but
you're
you know what I mean.
paraphrasing.
Right, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But it is very much like him, like, writing off like that. Like, not even like obviously, it's not saying he can't come back, right?
Mhm.
Like, again, like, we think about like content creators like Vanguard Insider just missing, Psalm's gone, like if Robbie Cole hadn't made the jump to, oh shoot, okay, it's fine. Hadn't made the jump to also doing standard content because he's like, I still want to play Vanguard. Like, he probably would have been gone too soon.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of the old guard wouldn't have been disenfranchised with the game because at least there's a place for them to play.
Yeah, it's kind of insane seeing how many faces just, like, either in the midst of dropping off of it, if not, like, having already done so, and it just kind of all coming out of the woodworks.
And it's not to say that some people just be like, I'm able to make Vanguard content because life. I've been doing other stuff for life, right? Like,
Yeah.
Living Proof has 2 kids.
Mhm.
It's like, yeah, I would like shoot. I don't have time for Vanguard. I got kids to raise and feed in 2026 America. I
Yep.
have a family to provide for. Sometimes you just don't have that time. Perfectly fine. But it's like, even then, he is like also kind of like checked out of Vanguard too in that case as well. Right? I've heard like Outer Orange be kind of a little sad about it. Curly is basically is in the game still in the game purely out of spite at this point. Right. But it's like a lot of the old guard, like the mid guard that was like in V, that came around V, like early standard, it feels like they kind of like have faded away, or like are starting to fade away, and then you have like this. So that's a point right there, right? For why V should have stayed, and why V should have gotten the support it did. Right? The amount of work V was doing was secretly what was keeping all these people still in the game to an extent. The second thing is that even I also agree with John on this. Premium could never get a direct line support ever again and be fine. Because one, it's a legacy format. It still has access to every card release in time memoriam. It will be fine. And I agree with him on that. If, and the second part, if Bushiroad had actually put in genuine effort to balance the format with restriction list at least every 6 months. Like, that's at bare minimum what they could have done. It's like, listen, we're not going to give you direct support, but we are going to at least carve out some of the toxic pieces. And as time goes on, you're going to get new cards from standard. And we'll at least carve out some of the toxic stuff that's probably been here and has been need to go for a while. You know, we'll at least give you that. If they just done that, at least just said, hey, we will just keep doing that, that's good. That's fine. Perfectly fine.
Certainly wouldn't have hurt.
But
Would have been better than nothing.
But it's like,
seemed to be what they were dead set on as time went on.
mm-hmm. But I think the moment to me that was like, oh, this is, they're actually going to, was that sealed it for me in my head. Like, oh, they're actually going to do it, is the fact that we've basically gone like 3 years at this point, and they have effectively refused to create a universal mechanic that allowed for energy to come into premium. Now, whether or not premium needed energy or would have it would have been probably a mistake is a whole other discussion. But the fact that they basically refused to change the rules of premium to allow for standard cards, that just kind of made standard only cards. Like, you can play these cards, but they're basically vanillas, or they have a alternate cost that just kind of doesn't work.
The amount of times I have had this exact brand of discussion with friends about them designing shit, intentionally or not, that just does not compute in premium. Whether it be, whether it be printing energy costs, whether it be printing the dreaded your G zone has no cards clause for archetypes or decks that clearly would have wanted a G zone, as is premium decks are wanting to do. It's like some of that design wise, like deliberately leaving the generator out of premium, that felt like a more direct action towards like keeping D design out of premium and like starving it for support. But even something even more recently with the fighter icons for the Aichi and Kai decks. Like, you realize now we live in a world where like most of the cards in that deck check for a thing that will not exist if you stride over a fighter icon grade 3. Like, not even Crystal Luster can copy a fighter icon.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, no,
So it's like they've managed to even pseudo name lock something in a way that fucks over the core way that you would play that game in the Eternal format.
Like, it is like you said, like, I think what made it worse is that they gave it to encounters.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand from a D only perspective, the argument is, God, Jesus Christ, we really do not want you playing these fuckers in stride decks because we are scared shitless of them after we printed Luard and specifically Shiranui. But like, fucking man.
Which, you brought them up. Let's talk about it. Like, once Rummy Labyrinth came out, like, we haven't gotten whiff of a stride deck in 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Like, we would have got one by now, but we haven't, like, now would have been like the point where we've got one by now. The fact that we haven't is like, are they just done? They're not even gonna bother with like an alt mile and Asha one. They're just like, nah.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, I almost wonder if we're maybe part of this feels too optimistic.
No,
Uh
come on. I
a
wanna hear it.
part of me wonders if maybe the thing they were how do I put this? We got Myrtoa, which was like clear if I recall. No, Myrtoa wasn't G stuff specifically, was it? Myrtoa was
Uh,
probably older.
what Matura exactly?
Myrtoa.
Like the Miorda or Matura? The
Her
promo one?
like was she V originally? Was like did she not have a pre-V version?
No, she had one, but it was like kind of like that drop and
Oh, it was
draw.
like old.
Yeah,
Okay, never
old.
mind.
Yeah, it was a drop
All
and
right,
draw. So
disregard that thought
yeah.
specifically, but like similar to like them bringing back Legion via D Legion in standard, I almost question if their issue with strides is less to do with stride decks themselves existing in standard and them being starter product. Like the fact that it's this style of starter product for standard that has no synergy with any other piece of relevant, like currently relevant Vanguard media. Like it's like, oh, it's starter product, but it's starter product that's very explicitly aimed at like the boomers.
Mm,
So maybe there's like a world where they print future stride decks, but they just print them as dedicated waves of support in a main, like in main sets to make room for the master deck sets as like pre-built stuff.
I mean, you,
But I feel like we would have seen something to that effect in a set at this point. Like maybe
yeah.
set, it would have to be like, we get set 15 and two of the big encounters in that set are Altmile and Asha, and they just get their full support wave in
I,
there.
I'll say like this: if they do that, then yeah, they're it's 100% like yeah. I think that confirms like yeah, no, they are done with premium because why would you not? Because why would you know, not have all that like because like the point of the stride deck sets was one, you had like this out of box very competitive thing that showed you a taste of the old Vanguard in a sense, and it also supported these old decks in a sense too, right? Like all
Hmm.
my own Asha and whatnot. Having going from that to you just put them, you put these cards as a just generic is like kind of like just cards in a set, which you now have to pull, which means you now have to buy more boxes, or buy maybe multiple cases to make sure you have a playset of the cards you need now, thanks to the rule change. It's like, yeah, no, you have to actually work for your power.
Hmm. And see, like,
Well,
I think a change like that might have worked earlier on if they were actually intent on keeping premium alive, because that would have at least, well, okay, you wouldn't have had as big an issue with, like, oh, the stride decks only have one crest maker. So, like, we
mm-hmm.
have to buy four of a deck set just to get a play set of the load bearing card that makes this deck work in the way it clearly wasn't meant to in premium because of the existence of G guards and the like. Uh, but I feel like if they would have, that would have worked fine if they'd have done it sooner and they were intent on keeping premium around, because then, like, premium players have even more and would have another incentive to like actively engage with standard like main product, not just be like, oh, here's this, you get your one or two deck sets every year and then you just stop engaging with standard product because most of it isn't like designed in that capacity.
uh,
It's not a perfect solution. Like ideally
No, it's
standard cards would still be designed in a way that would like if they wanted standard and premium to be the only two, which wouldn't have necessarily worked with how intensely powerful gifts were to premium as a format. Like they would have needed to like design standard stuff much more closely with premium play in mind. Whereas now it very much feels like anything that any strays that hit premium from that format are an anomaly, and any anti-synergy, barring the lack of energy generator in premium, very much just feels incidental. Like premium is literally catching strays for them only designing with standard in mind.
yeah, it is. It is very much the. I agree with you. It's very much like yeah, no. If they really did want premium players to also interact with standard a little bit more, they would have probably made that change around probably at least by the Messiah one. Because obviously the Messiah one wasn't as strong, but it's like, hey, you know, here you go. From now, like at very least, by Messiah one, if not, then the Luard and Shiranui ones. Because it's like, hey, now you know we know that this we could both, in a sense, get these premium players to buy more standard supplies because they can have to come in there, have to come into these sets and actually get their stuff, which means, you know, they then probably were like, well, I might try a standard deck that's probably in this set and just kind of go off on that, and maybe they, you know, transition into the format a lot more. Perfectly valid in that regard, right? I mean, when they reprinted in DZZ6 the uh uh Chronojet and um Messiah
In the Messiah
stuff, it
deck
was like that
sets.
was a pretty good idea because it was like, oh man, that actually it dropped the price of the crest markers down exponentially, but it's still like, yeah, these are very powerful. So like imagine you did that in the next like non-anime set and you like, hey, here is a set for Shiranui Luard. You can get all your stuff here, and you buy those premium players now buy boxes, maybe even the cases, to make sure they have stuff they need for premium. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
that means more cases are being opened, being more product is there, meaning cars may be cheaper for the regular standard player and the premium player, and everyone's kind of happy. And people are, again, more cases mean Bushiroad's getting more money. Cheaper cards means players are able to play their cards right. Everyone's happy. We all winning. Yeah.
What could have been.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is an issue with the fact that, well, I think just this is an issue with both the higher ups, you know, and I'm specifically talking about the elephant in the room,
Mm?
and about the fact that I don't know who the current Cardfight Vanguard producer is that isn't the English producer, which is Shinichi Tara, who is the president of Bushiroad Global.
Yeah, it sure would be nice to know who the fuck is at the front of the ship.
Which I have
Wouldn't it?
looked like when the original when Keitamori left, there were when they split it into two, they had the English producer, which was Shinichi Taira, who has been at Bushiroad for years. Right, like we've seen him. And then we also had I'm forgetting his name, but we had that person with their name. He was on the stream, he made a speech, and outside of I think one other time, we have not seen him since. And I have checked multiple times on the Bushiroad like lineup of like higher up of like their like I guess like kind of like this. I don't want to say like the C-suite, but more like their executive like team. His name is not on there. Shinichi Tyra's name is on there, but not his. So, which is weird. Is like why is the Japanese producer Bushiro just suddenly missing from anything that would probably have him on there? And we have not been made notice that that has been the case. It really makes you question what the heck's going on there. It was like, do we even have a Japanese producer? Does Shinichi Taira like control all of Vanguard now? Is that what happened? And something happened. They just couldn't explain what happened to him. Like we have no answer because I've done like a couple searches. Nothing's come up about him.
Ira had full control of Vanguard, and this is where both sides of the ocean have landed on this. I've got some choice fucking words for that, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd be done being nice to him if he had control of Vanguard and he created this. I think it's made worse because we just went through what how many things of like there's some really questionable things, but Hololive like had like a couple oopsies. I guess you could call the AI uh what you recall it was like that was an oopsie, but they were like, hey, that was the third party thing. We just didn't do it. We're sorry. We're cutting that up, scratching
Mhm.
up, breaking a new one immediately, like almost immediately, like 2 days. Like said, this we didn't know what happening. That's on us. We're gonna scrap that and create a whole new trailer. 2 days, bam, told you what they're gonna do. Did it, done. Like also we said with the Weiss and Chill, which is like Weiss Tea Time, which is like, hey, I got a generic thing, but it's still like, hey, you know what? We'll send this over to the Hololive team and see what they gotta say. They at least told you something. And at least was like probably it's going to lead there. We just saw Shadows Evolve. It was like, yeah, no, here's a bunch of cool stuff for the third anniversary. We are trying to make moves and generally push this game. We're trying to push Glory Finder. We're trying to like genuinely like put an effort to this game in the West because somebody there believes in it. And obviously, like if it fails, that pretty much will kill Side Games and Bushiroad's relationship off rip. So, like they're going to do everything
Mhm.
in their power to keep that going. Weiss is, I would say, kind of low maintenance. Like you don't really need to do much for Weiss. Just make sure sets release and they're interesting and they're impactful, and hopefully like not so destructive to everything. Right? I think that's just perfectly fine to kind of have. Right?
Right.
And then but then we have cases like Godzilla, which I have checked. This is the third time since that game's release that they have not gotten a single thing on the English conference. No new set announcement, even though they do announce sets on their Twitter, but like not in the actual conference. Like no actual thing, no details on BCS, Springfest, nothing. They've just been completely missing, and it's just like, why did you bring this game globally then if this was what was going to happen?
It did, it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like I've seen more from the Godzilla card game from a fucking Shadowverse YouTuber than I have from Bushiroad themselves. I was suggested an Ignidius video on the
Yep,
Godzilla card game.
Igni loves Godzilla, and even he's like, I wish, I wish this game got a lot more love because I feel like it's very interesting. I would like to actually go to places and play it, but like it's big and it's apparently like actually like really decently sized in Japan, obviously. But it's like they've done nothing to support this game in global. And it's like, why did you release it in global in the first place then? And you did it before HoloLive. HoloLive had to wait like another 6 months. Now they're like a year behind. They're a year behind Japan. Like, if there's a game that should be like at least had a global release, or at least been like, hey, listen, we're going to release HoloLive. We're going to probably do like a accelerated schedule until we get uh matching up with Japan in some capacity. It should have been HoloLive. Like, you have covers resources. You have covers big names. You have like you telling me you can get Nori Calliope, those two like Fox girls, and Narissa Ravencroft on a stream to yap for 10 minutes about this game, but you can't actually get this game out in a reasonable manner? Godzilla can't get a single thing? Because they're not cheap, I guarantee you that. Like, as much as I want to be like, oh, they probably do the greatest in heart, yeah, but they also like some money. But cover, they would do it because of heart. Cover probably would be like, hey, you gotta pay us though for this appearance fee.
Yeah, I just don't know what they're thinking. If
And then
again, if they're thinking.
and then we lure this back into the other upcoming, the second albatross around the neck, the not albatross, the Damocles sword. Power World is coming to a worldwide release in July. How?
I
That will be when we get to, and not only that, they announced that they're going to immediately start doing tournament scenes for that game in autumn. You know what's in autumn? BCS. You know what that means? That barring some unknown thing, if we stay at where we are, the 4 games for Bushiroad Championship Series, the main tournament scene, will be Cardfight Vanguard Standard, Power World TCG, Shadow vs. Evolve, and White Schwartz. Godzilla and HoloLive will not be in a competitive scene in the global market.
I mean, at that point, I question why they don't just fucking, well, okay, I suppose the answer to my own question would be Fantasy Flight would shove a rocket up their ass if that's the company I'm thinking about. But at that point, I genuinely ask for stuff like Hololive and Godzilla, like, sell them like a fucking board game if you're not going to try to bother doing competitive shit with them on like a larger scale.
To be fair, Godzilla kind of is a board game. But it's still like amazes me how they just don't want to market it on their own show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you choose what gets there and you don't market it. But you'll probably spend like at least like $2,000 or like hundreds of dollars, if not maybe like $1,000 or $2 on VTubers to talk about a game for 5 to 8 minutes. Yet Vanguard will get 5 minutes for everything. We'll probably get 5 minutes max for some things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think what pissed me off about the Mori Calliope one was not not just my bias against Mori for some things, that's a whole different story. But also the fact that she kind of just like that it was like she kind of just kind of like not stumbled, but like she was kind of like it was very slow, and it was like I feel like I'm not gonna be trying, hey, rush the girl, but it's like, hey, we can probably speed this up, like
They tried to, whenever they have the talent on, they try more or less to have the talent present in their own the way it feels like most people recognize them as.
mm-hmm.
And that results in certain talent hamming shit up far more than others. Like that was the exact same shit I was talking about last night when we went through the English conference, and I'm like, yeah, no, out of all of the presenters for this block so far, like Narissa is by far the most like chill or otherwise like, can I say medicated? Because that's what I want to say of the bunch. That it just
Yeah.
results in a much better flowing show.
So let's kind of move on from there. But the point is, but now we're going to get into Power World, and it's very obvious that Power Worlds is pretty much the main. It's pretty much the other reason why Premium is dying, because we can only handle 4 games, 5 games maybe. We can't actually spend the resources to keep another Vanguard line going uh if no one's buying product for it and no one is going to tournaments, which is insanely capped because the only excuse me outside of America, it's been kind of recorded and said that from like people who do the stats like Sage, that premium is going up in everywhere but America.
Mm-hmm.
Like it may not be like some gigantic numbers, but it's been going up year over year. So it's not even like so. I was like, it's obviously it's not like a big thing, but it's like people are still going to premium events. People still want to play the format. So it's not like there isn't like a thing, but obviously there's been less people who've been motivated to play because like they see like, well, there's no major wave of new cards in the format to play. I'm basically just playing the same deck for the past 2 years, and there's barely been any ban list. So I'm pretty much playing again the same deck for the last 2 years.
It is very much a self-fulfilling prophecy on the JP side front, where it feels like you get in that vicious loop of it isn't being supported, so I'm not going to play. Well, it's not being supported by the players, so we don't have a reason to support it. And it just like all of that all of that originates from Bushiroad's own insistence on wanting to try and nuke the formats from like the alt formats from orbit. But
It is. I think this is kind of the thing. I feel like this is mostly because I think Kadani is regretting him ever saying we're never gonna rotate Vanguard again. Like honestly, because like if we hit like we could have hit like a second rotation by now, and I think we'd be fine. Like we could go crazy and not really care. It's like I think he was. I think the decision was made because I think he and higher ups kind of went like, well, we're kind of this weird spot. Like we already are doing this rotation again, and you said we weren't gonna do it before. So I think they were like, do we either stand on our ground and say we're not gonna rotate anymore, or do we keep rotating? And I think they chose to not rotate against because they're like, well, we keep that line there and be like, we're done rotating. We're not doing this anymore. We're good. We're not doing this anymore because he made that vow that in Japan means pretty much your word is bond. If you break that, you're out. So he's like, I gotta keep up to it. So I think this is pretty much like. So I think this is just like at the point is like, okay, if there's any main to keep standard stable into the future, he probably made the decision because it's like, well, then we have to think about premium in the same way too. So it's like we just gotta. He probably told Global, hey, you know what? It's time to call it. Like we can't keep thinking about a format only you like the non-Japanese audience cares about. Even though he has said that Vanguard's sales are like way more from the West than from Japan. Now, how has that changed? I don't know. We haven't seen any like numbers recently about like how sales have been or whatnot. But it is very much a very interesting question on that. But and those like there's a bunch of other pieces, right? Like very much there's more card games that are coming out globally now, whereas like we got to start carving up, making room for them, which I thought at this point Hololive would perfectly be a shoe-in to take the premium slot space, but then all of a sudden Power World comes in at the last second with the steel chair and uh knocks some of these VTubers out the scene. It's like, wait, what? Then you So it's like that's one thing. Power World comes in, then I would say the Japanese audience is a factor. If the Japanese audience is a factor, if the Japanese audience doesn't really play it, then it's like, okay, we'd rather cater to the Japanese audience, and it's so, and that's not trying to be like any racism or anything of that sort. Please keep that in mind. That's just kind of how some of that works. That's how I've seen that trend kind of play out. And then then we just kind of the thing of like, well, we let them kill V. That's still a pretty key moment. We let them kill V. And then this now comes to the final point I'm going to make. And this is probably going to be the most controversial point. Premium died because for the better half of 10 years, the community couldn't get their act together. And you're probably wondering, what the heck do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, ever since we had the standard premium cut back when V had happened, we always had like this weird, we had the format wars, quote unquote, right? We always had this whole thing of like, oh well, standard sucks, premium is better, even though they just happened around the same time. It's like you were taking it more so. It's kind of, I feel like part of that was just kind of like this feeling of, oh well, the card pool is much more wider. I can play more decks. I don't have to wait. I didn't want to wait for my clan to come back in. It's like, okay, that's fine. But then eventually, it's like, okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But it became eventually less of this feeling of, well, I wait until my clan comes in, or there's more cards in the format. And then we were pretty much 3 sets in, and people were like, I actually just don't want to play this format. That format sucks. Mine is better. Blah 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 blah. You're playing a baby format, and this whole like negative toxicity of standard and premium players just kind of bashing on each other. And then, you okay?
It was a very It was a very it was a reminder that a decent number of Vanguard players are Zale era Yu-Gi-Oh players.
Yeah.
Like the way Yu-Gi-Oh players for the longest time and even up to this point treat the existence of alt formats definitely shown through.
See what? Anyway, but back to my point. So we had this. Then we got the D era, V era, and then premium split that happened. And then I'd argue it kind of got worse. Because now you have, and this is kind of where we are, which will eventually lead us today, is because you now have standard players who are like, oh man, look at this, the ride deck's so cool. I don't have to worry about ride thing or anything like that. And then you had, anything like that. I'm cool, I'm chilling, I get new stuff, woohoo. And then you have premium players like, yeah, but you're playing a baby format, woohoo. We still got strides, we still got all this whole thing, we still got a bunch of combos. It takes a bunch of skill. We play in a superior format. The only thing we don't want is the over trigger. We want it gone, specifically in our format, because it's a bad mechanic, which, regardless of what you feel of the over trigger, like, I think I remember seeing that post of, like, at this point, people don't even stare at the over trigger. They don't get upset at the over trigger. They stare at you blank face. Like, we can find it a little bit better, but it's like I'm on a roll here. And then V players, past a certain point, then kind of got looked at like Gundam Seed fans, like they actually are a blight upon the earth. It's like, your format is genuinely irrelevant. It sucks, and it shouldn't exist. You don't deserve rights. Everything, and it came from both D era players and premium players at points. It was like we were getting ganged up on. Like, damn.
It's almost impressive, really. I don't know how the fuck it managed to come full circle in such a self-destructive way.
Mm-hmm. And so, guess what? When he eventually died, everyone cheered, right? People acted like everyone was cheering. Woohoo! It's gone. Finally, we're free. And it's like, congrats! You just lost. Congrats, premium players! You just lost your only means of getting support. And they were like, and everybody was like, no, of course we're gonna get more support. Duh! It's like, we're premium. They wouldn't stop supporting premium. And so now it's like, then eventually just kind of went back to this whole standard premium debate, but this time it's premium players debating the D era players, the DZ players. Like, well, your format's so lame, it's so boring, it's not Vanguard, it's bad, it's ill. Like, you have the over trigger, ill, get me out of here. Like, how can you play this slop? And regardless
this moment.
And keep in mind, regardless of how you feel about the current state of Vanguard, of like standard Vanguard, that's not something you want to hear. So then now, when this happened, I saw a lot of standard players be like, I'm glad it's gone. I hated the player base. I thought y'all were lame. I thought premium has sucked for years. I'm good. And it's like, there. And I'm just sitting here as the person who warned everyone. I'm like, I warned y'all that's how it happened. So my final point of how we got here as the final piece is that the Vanguard community let this happen. The toxicity was just left to fester for almost 10 years. and no like actual like big name in the community genuinely tried to actually address it. You know, people who are we consider leaders in the community. One, because we were very much a bunch of snot-nosed children for about a good 5, 6 years straight, right? Like, what do we know about leadership? What do we know about having like understanding what toxic is? We're just playing a card game, dog.
Mm-hmm.
But now here we are. We all know better, and it's far too late to do anything. But I feel like, but I also like I think it's a lot of the people's problem, myself included. Because I'm like, if I saw this happening, I should have made more of a ruckus. I should generally talked up more. That's on me just as much as it is on other people in the community not really pointing this out or being like, hey man, you and the premium players have been toxic. We generally need to have a conversation about why we have this. Hey, you need to say you were gonna start something, but you know, I kind of cut you
Just
off
in
there.
this moment, I'm reminded of the fact, like, you realize, like, setting aside the Strider autos, that P Clan Collection 2022 was the last, like, truly premium original set. Do you remember when that came out? I have it pulled up just to be clear, but I'm
Mm,
curious if you remember roughly when this was.
you said 2022.
Oh, I realized I did. I'm
Yeah,
fucking stupid. It's 1 a.m. I'm tired.
fine, that's fine.
But no, like it came out in like May and June, respectively, of 2022. It has been 4 years since the last premium original cards came out. I feel like after the first year or so after that set, people should have started to realize that, like, yeah, okay, maybe we need to be concerned about the prospect of, like, premium original cards and whether or not those would be a thing post V.
Uh, can you look up because I don't think you can do it in my setups.
Yeah,
Is
what's up?
you look up the last B Clan collection?
Ooh, E Clan Collection Volume 6. Ooh, June and August of 2022. So the same year.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And then what proceeded to happen next was the promos. Getting the 2 promos every year for the grade 2 ride fixers, and then the grade 1 heal uh adjudicators, which also now goes to the whole thing. You could have probably made that one a blue wing and made that one a little extra.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, nothing. Like
Yep. They
honestly,
did the ride cyclers and then they did the heel guards,
yes.
the grade ones.
By the by the
And that
time
was
we
it.
were halfway into the heel guards, like I feel like when the heel guards showed up and we didn't get a single like new product, that should have been a moment everyone should have been like, wait a second, hold on, guys. Everyone should have immediately spoke up like, wait a second, what about hey, hold on, this is cool, but is there more? Is there anything more? Do you have anything more for us? So I was like, hey, I was told to shut up. I said, let's slide. I was like, hey,
I
I'll
mean,
shut up when you shut up.
I feel like even that point was probably too late, because at that point it would have been like, oh well, it's been a while since we've had any like V premium stuff in development at all, and then we would have to like dredge back up the like a team that's willing to like work on this shit. I just
Yeah, but everyone's gonna be like, oh, we'll eventually get it.
yeah, I didn't understand I didn't understand the idea that like I understand wanting to hold out hope for the sake of hope, but like you can only have so much proof thrown in your face until like something's gotta give. Surely. At least that's what I thought.
If anything that's taught me in the past 10 years is that, yeah, you could literally have everything shown in your face and some people will still not get it.
It so much of it just comes down to like I I make I make the joke from time to time that like one of the most powerful abilities a Vanguard player could have beyond even the likes of Psyqualia is basic pattern recognition. And no one seems to have that ability to like look at the way the way the company handles their product and notice trends and be like, wait, this is looking oddly familiar to shit they've done before to Acts 1 part of the game. Should we maybe be at all slightly concerned that this could affect us? Or no, like why? Why would it affect us? Why would they touch us? We're the lifeblood of the game. We're the
What would they do anything to us? We're white. I'm sorry, but I was like, it was too easy. It was too easy.
No,
But also,
I know, I understand. I get it. I wish people could have wrapped their heads around that idea sooner that like y'all aren't that safe. Like in no world were you not next on the chopping block. And after a certain point, like once it crossed a certain threshold, I kind of just had to sit back and be like, they're this far along the process. Like, not not to say that I understand not rolling over at that point, but like them being the company that they are, it just felt like there was no world they were going like again, it would have had to have been an imminent threat on the game's existence in that moment for the ship to be willing to turn around. In any other instance, in any remote lack of urgency relative to that exact scenario, they stay the course. And this is the result.
what allowed them to stay at the course? I think allowed them to stay that course.
What do you think allowed them to stay the course?
The era of collaborations.
Yeah. Yeah, that certainly didn't help matters any. That is kind of the next step in printing a bunch of shit that clearly won't see any play outside of standard.
Because I say this mainly because that event happened on the cusp of the goodwill of early divines.
Yeah.
Just think about it. Everyone's excited for divine. Season one was like everyone's like, oh my god, Vanguard is back again. We had a genuinely good season. During good season, the decks are fun and interesting to play. Right? People were like, oh my god, this is so good. And then you had the Quince, and then you had Bang Dream, and you kept having Bang Dream, and you kept having Bang Dream, and then Bang Dream became hot with Ave Musica, and then with Mygo and Ave Musica. And even if Vanguard's anime went down, there were still interesting things that were allowed to exist because, oh wait, the mainstream fans will buy this stuff for collection.
Mhm.
And then you'll have also other things like the random Love and Berry thing. You'd have Mushi King. You'd have right, Token Rambu still has a audience, otherwise they would have stopped by now.
Mhm.
Somebody's buying those Token Rambu sets.
I will trust your judgment on that.
Anyone who's not named Toyo, but
Oh, yeah.
the point being is like when the collaboration stuff happened, which was around the time when Magic started doing heavy Universes Beyond, like when that opened up and collabs were happening, Vanguard, like most, like this is kind of the funny thing of Vanguard. Vanguard is always ahead of the curve somehow in some ways. Like alt arts, the obviously the multi-layered like tournament circuits. You know, like Bandai Card Fest wouldn't exist without BCS and Springfest. Uh, you know, having being one of the few card game animes still around, right? Adapting specifically to that and just being like, yeah, we're gonna keep pushing this, even if we have to adapt to the growing state of the market. We're still going to keep the Vanguard anime going consistently in some way. And then, you know, when Magic hit the collabs, then, you know, arguably Busher was ahead of them already because we had Shaman King, Record of Ragnarok, um, Token Rambu came back finally, and then Monster Strike.
Mhm.
And Monster Strike being the best deck for a time probably also increased those sales of that set to make sure you got like the cards in there. Being like having one of the best decks, probably like a couple actually top tier strategies in there, allowed it to be the thing and people bought into it, right? It is kind of ironic. There's like Bushiroad has been on the ahead of the curve than most of these companies, and now we're about to see Battle Spirits do a standard and eternal format come like later this year. Like obviously that's not unique to uh Vanguard, but it's like no other card game has really done that since. And now all of a sudden here we go, One Piece is on rotation, Battle Spirits is on rotation, because to them they're kind of like looking like you know what, Vanguard's probably right, Magic was probably right. We probably can't keep it, you know, probably also that looking at Yu-Gi-Oh! They probably can't keep an eternal format going as the main core of the card game.
Mhm.
You probably do need to
I
kind of cut it off at a point.
Yeah, I feel like even a game like Gundam, because Gundam cards have like similar placement of numbers that mm, are in the same placement relatively
Mm-hmm.
as One Piece's block numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I feel like at some point they're going to attempt to implement that. It just may not come as much of a shock as it did for One Piece players because another Bandai game has
Yes.
already ripped that band-aid off.
Like Riftbound immediately said when they're releasing, hey, you know, we're going to eventually implement rotation. Like like again, Vanguard was ahead of the game in most of these games. The difference is they create the idea, but they don't innovate on it. Especially when in recent times, like really what's happening is every other game, especially from Bandai, is looking at what Bushiroad has been doing and has been trying to innovate on it And it's so far, I won't say completely, because One Piece hasn't officially hit rotation and all this other stuff. Union Arena still is kind of like this weird lineup, you know, but it is very much like a lot of what they do is based on what Bushiroad has done with their games in the past, and they're just kind of like trying to be like, all right, let's do this, but let's do it differently. And right now, One Piece is making more money than God.
Sure is.
Dragon Ball is still somehow alive despite it having like 2 formats. Digimon is rolling around fine as an eternal game. And all their alt rarities are entirely, wow, magnificent. Meanwhile, we've been pretty much on the same like type of secret rare for the past like 3 years. And our DSRs have gone down since set 4. Like, keep in mind, we had set 1 give us 2 DSRs. We got set 2 that gave us 2 DSRs, both from clamp. Set 3, both from clamp. Set 4, both from clamp. After that, we only went to 1 DSR every single set going forward. And even then, that wasn't even the case. Almost a DSR every single set. Like, there were some sets that just didn't have a DSR.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm trying to think. I don't think was like, and it's like, what happened to the alt arts? Like, we're barely getting alt arts for cards now, if ever. Meanwhile, Digimon is like literally every high rare like SR or secret has a alt art card version of it in the set. That is a different art, same character but different art, different stance that makes the card a lot more desirable. And it's like we've had like little small extra rarities like the manga rares in the set with Cody Blaze and whatnot. But it's like where's the interesting stuff? Like Vanguard, it feels like Vanguard has become too like, not only that, like I remember different parts talking about this on the stream and how like somebody you talked to was talking about like Vanguard just feels like it hasn't used its it feels very, I don't say I say sterilized, so I don't think that's what they exactly said, but it's more like where are like the robots? Where are the demons? Where are the monsters being vanguards?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all we have is attractive like men, women, and if we have some weird shenanigans, it's like kind of like basic. Right? Zorga was cool, but it's like pretty much everything's there. Right? We had like just thinking of last year, like everything's either a upgrade of a previous boss or the new stuff was just attractive female character or attractive male character or maybe a dragon here or there. Like it feels like the game became sanitized with its artwork. It feels samey with the argument of everything's just plain generics. The the generic slop. God, I hate slop. Has destroyed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And all this thing, and it's like it really just feels like it is that Vanguard. This is supposed to be a whole discussion about premium, but this is more so kind of like another. I'm gonna loop this back a second, but it really just feels like Vanguard's being too samey with its design and its look and everything. It's trying to be very much sanitized, which now leads back to probably another reason why they got premium is that premium is scary. Eternal formats are scary to people because when everyone talks about eternal format, it's like, oh, I can't get into, because they probably also looked at Yu-Gi-Oh and how people like bounced off of Yu-Gi-Oh too. It's like, oh, I can't get to Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. It's too complicated. It's too much. There's a whole bunch of cards I don't have the knowledge for, and it's like they probably took that to heart. And it's like, dog, Vanguard has an actual resource system, has an actual means of how turns go, to flow turns, has like limits. Like there's actual limits to the Yu-Gi-Oh card. There aren't limits to the Yu-Gi-Oh card game in the same way that Vanguard does. That tells me you don't even know your own game correctly. If you don't believe that that player who plays standard for at least 2 to 3 years can't jump into premium and be like, okay, I understand the game, the way the game flow. It's obviously going to be different because of a legacy of cards, but eventually I'll get in there. Again, with this, like the start decks that were just all vanillas, it's like you genuinely think your player base are idiots.
Yes. No, but like unironically, that is a big a big part of the problem. Is like they don't have faith in players' ability to like wrap their head around anything but standard. And part of the problem is like with V and Premium both effectively dead, eventually, power level wise, standard is going to reach a point where it will end up needing or inadvertently end up becoming more complex. Like, just in terms of like raw card power and like how many effects you will end up condensing into individual cards. And if that happens, like, where the fuck do you go from there? You either ban the shit out of a bunch of cards that are causing the complexity issues and like just bring the level of the format back down to a certain level and then try to redesign from there. And like that's kind of it, unless you like lie and rotate again and just be like, hey, we are implementing proper set rotation, like not this like stray 1 in a million every like half decade type shit. And we're like, we're implementing this proper, and to make up for and to make up for going back on this promise, the person that made that promise is no longer here. Like he we are implementing with this with the expectation that Kidani is stepping down.
Which I don't think is gonna work. Unless I would say he would step down if Power fails or he retires.
Mm.
Which is why they're doing so much for Power World off the rip, because I genuinely do believe that if Power World fails, that's pretty much a wrap for him. Because if you look at how the Western, like I've read a lot of those interviews. I read the Newsweek one. I read the one that I think was just a while ago. Everything I read, like some of the Japanese interviews he's done, like he has talked to things and he has said he wants Vanguard to be the leader to the future, right? He wants to make Bushiroad global, make it a global brand, increase all this. And I I I believe he says these things. I do not believe he knows exactly what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cuz we are on the 15th anniversary. Like we're about what? Let's see if that stream is like the I think it's the 24th or 26th. we're about 2 weeks away from the anniversary stream that will, we joke about being like the quote unquote we're sorry stream for the 15th anniversary whole thing, that debacle that happened last month, you know. But if, and I mean this as honest as I can, if that was the genuine case he was saying, then this wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't have, or at very least, there would have been moves to make sure that not just Vanguard Premium didn't die for nothing, but also that there was genuinely an attempt to globalize Bushiroad, the company. Like why is the global office in Singapore, which is like barely like a skip's throw away from Japan? Why is there not another office in Europe? Why is there not another office in America? Two big places in the Western market that are very important to Bushiroad, especially America. Why is there no thing there at least in either America and Europe, where they can actually have we have the resources, we can do we can print cards, we can print cards easier because we have access to printing presses. We have easy way to actually kind of transport these places because they have multiple means of getting them there on faster, right? We have a team that is on site that can actually make moves and potentially have more tournament scenes. Why is there nothing there that actually says you're actually trying to make that effort? And I hate that there's apparently a rumor that they stopped that. One, because when COVID happened there, and two, they were afraid of leaks. And it's like, if you're afraid of leaks of your card game at this point, then find people who are leaking and get them out of here. If you're that scared of them, just get rid of the people out of here. Hire different people, hire new people. Hire more people to actually generally get the job done. And if the higher up can't do it, then you either need to replace them or get them some help. You have to give them resources. This is the biggest problem. What I think is Bushiroad is that it does not seem like you have the resources to increase the global to increase your global marketplace, which is not true because you actually have gone up in revenue. So you have the money to actually increase this, but you're a company in 2026. You actually don't care that you have more money so that you could hire more people to expand your thing. You just want more money to please your investors. You don't actually care about global increase in Bushiroad's name. You're saying that because it makes the line go up. I don't believe you, Takaki Kadani. I don't believe you on the cusp of your 60-something birthday. I don't believe you as being one of the presidents and CEOs of Bushiroad for almost 20 years. I do not believe you. Until you prove that to me. Nothing will change with this game. Nothing will change with this company. Nothing will change with anything, which is even crazy. Until you, I need you to lock in, bro. I need you to actually lock in. We're tired of playing with you. We're tired of making these memes about you being, oh, look, there's Kidani, he's our dad, that bullshit. No, that nigga is not my dad. That nigga is a that nigga is the homie. That nigga is a boss. That is a person whose job it is to make a good product, and he ain't doing it. He's a bum. He's a bum who is only still here because it's his company. If anyone knows higher ups are smart, they would have probably packed him up years ago. So yeah, Premium is dead. And everybody killed it.
Well, I suppose there is no better time than any for me to share the knife that I have been slowly sharpening in the background.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you let off with load bearing Goku and I just kind of rolled with it.
Oh, this is good. This is great. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Hold on.
I really think the piss yellow P Clan collection in the back as the background really ties it all together.
Can I say this openly? This is great. I love this. Rip Premium 205-2026. We told you so. Wait a second. What's the hollow? Is that the Godzilla logo too?
No, I put the Pal World one in one of them.
Oh.
I just zoomed in really hard on the card for one of the shots.
Oh my goodness. Yep. I'm saying this is too. I'm saying this is Zeta 2. This is good.
Also, please don't question the Shin Megami Tensei 5 font. I looked in my font folder that I normally use for Pixel Lab, and literally all my other ones are missing.
It is fine. It is perfectly fine. Okay. Well, that is it for the news at that point. Yeah, that pretty much ate the bulk of the podcast. We were pretty much like on pace to end like in 3 hours, and then we are now an hour and a half later.
I think it got the time it deserved.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pent up emotions that needed closure in some capacity. Bury the body, as it were. Say the words at the post.